this week's podcast guest is me. And I am a guest on my own podcast because I invited the awesome, beautiful, gorgeous Shari Thompson to interview me about my human design journey. And if you are in her community, the human design community on Facebook, then you may very well have already heard or seen this interview, but you won't have heard or seen the Patron part where she asked me some more questions and I got really, really vulnerable and candid and personal about some of the shifts that I have made. If you are new to human design and you want to know like why bother with human design, then you will get something from this episode. If you are nosy and love to hear people's personal journeys, then you will get something from this episode. If you like to hear me and Shari respond to each other and see 252s in action, then you will get something from this episode. And if you are one of the many, many people who slide into my DMs and ask me about my journey with human design, then you will get a lot from this episode. So without further ado, I'm going to leave you to watch or listen to my human design journey. And if you're not yet a patron, I highly encourage you to become a patron to listen to this episode. It's a little bit longer than usual, I think. And yeah, I shared some stuff that I'm probably never going to share publicly about my human design journey. So you will get a lot from it. And without further ado, enjoy. You are listening to Adulting with Ebony. Season 7 brings together neurodiversity, human design and embodiment so that Gen X or millennial misfits and late diagnosed neurospices become empowered, embodied and fully expressed. This is the show where I actively encourage you to feel your feelings rather than think them. Glow up, not grow up, and become full of yourself. Because who the fuck else should you be full of? Each week, I have real and raw conversations about what it takes to be fully resourced and have happy, healthy, intimate relationships as a dopamine-deficient adult wanting to create a better future by being the change that you want to see in the world. I am your host, Ebony Allard, aka Ebony Alchemy, a late diagnosed ADHDer, combined type and Asperger's in case you like specifics, artist, mystic, and self-actualization facilitator. I'm an international award-winning multiple brain integration technique master coach with special interest in embodied human design for neurodivergence. I've been in the personal development, creativity, and entrepreneurship spaces all of my life, and as a 5/2 emotional manifesting generator with a left angle cross of distraction, I am here to help you know what to trust and what to tune out. Each week, I share relatable, practical ways that mean you get to take less responsibility for more reward and safely remove your camouflage for more belonging, acceptance, and fulfillment. Ready? Let's go.
Today on my human design journey, we're joined by Ebony Allard, and Ebony is a 5/2 emotional manifesting generator who is going to share all about her journey with human design, what it means to her, how it showed up, how it integrates into her life, how it's changed her life, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the whole thing, because it's all beautiful and perfect. Welcome, Ebony.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here and to be having this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Tell us how you first discovered human design. What was that moment for you?
I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. And there were a couple of people talking about it that kind of caught my attention. One of them at that time was Paige Michelle, or at least Paige, and then also Tiffany Purdy. And they were both talking about this thing that incorporated other modalities that I have an interest in and a kind of some level of proficiency in. So I was like, what is this? Why do I not know about this? And I'm going to be completely honest, I was really intrigued by their marketing, and they're both incredible marketeers. And I found it like a wall of information that was impenetrable, overwhelming, and a bit like, yeah, I'll stick with what I know, thanks. Like, this is just so much. How is anybody supposed to embody this? Yeah, so that was my kind of first encounter. As I got a little bit into it, I studied it a little bit, I followed things, but there were so many pieces. There was like this profile piece, and then all these numbers that people kept talking about, and anything with numbers, I'm like, what? Like, it's very difficult for me to comprehend numbers and remember them. And I couldn't find anyone making it simple. I couldn't find anyone who was talking about it in terms of embodiment. And at that time, I was like, okay, who's this weird dude that had an encounter in Ibiza? And it was interesting, and it caught my attention. And then it was overwhelming too much, and my kind of magpie-ness was onto something else and let it go. And then I think it wouldn't really leave me alone. And so each year there was something. So then Karen Curry Parker became somebody who I just read and read and read, and I read all the other books. I actually did Enrich with Tiffany Purdy in the end. I really loved that program because she did make it simple, and she kind of went, we're looking at this, ignore everything else. And that was quite helpful for me. And so I had started really playing with it, embodying it, immersing myself in it in my own way. And then you and I met, and you were like, I'm going to do a certification in it. And I think before anything had even happened, I went, yes.
Yeah, that's literally what happened.
So yeah, I was the first one in, and potentially the piece that helped your response in a like, okay, I'm doing this then. Because I was so clear that with the way that you are and the embodiment that you bring and the pieces, the containment of each piece and the step-by-step nature of how you approach things, it was just a really clear yes for me of like, okay, this is somebody who is going to help me to not get distracted. Left angle cross of distraction, didn't know a lot about it then. And who is going to help me really make this my own, who isn't going to, like, this was my sense, who isn't going to have this kind of territorial hierarchy around these learnings, but is actually walking her talk in terms of this being empowering. Yeah, so since then, I've been on a whole journey with you, and I think that you have really helped me make the transition from, well, this is interesting, and all my Sagittarius planets finds this fascinating, right, and very heady, and like, oh, what else can I learn? Into, okay, it's also fascinating to actually embody this, and there are layers here, and there's alchemy here. So yeah,
I love that. So juicy. Okay, let's talk about the embodiment part of this, because I mean, you and I are both on the same page with embodiment, and it is essential. There's no point knowing a thing if you are not embodying the thing. Tell me a little bit about your journey with the embodiment part of human design.
So if I sidestep ever so slightly, the other thing that happened at the same time as my going deeper into human design and finding this thing fascinating was I got an ADHD and autism diagnosis, and I also was had a nudge to redo the master level training that I have in multiple brain integration technique. And so I was already using these embodiment practices, already working embodied alchemy with people in a very 5-2 kind of a way, with no understanding or framework, you know, of like, this is why I do it like this, right? Like just doing it very naturally. And I redid the Master Coach qualification with a lens of neurodivergence. And that's, I guess, where I really consciously started my own embodiment journey of like, okay, what does it mean to work my way through the process of embodiment? Where do I start? Type. Okay, what happens next, right? And that's one of the things that you've really given me is a structure, so that instead of being squirrel and like just going from one thing to the next, I'm really dipping in and out and not really getting anywhere. and or forgetting that I've done anything at all, which is something else I do very easily. The structure and the containers that you have really enabled me to be on an embodiment journey and to have a to-do list rather than a to-do list, right? Like actually reflect and go, oh, wow, that's changed, or oh, wow, that's changed.
I think that is such a beautiful way of framing it and really bringing it into, because in order to embody something that is overwhelming at the beginning for the brain to take on board, obviously it's going to be overwhelming for the body as well. And with those layers of neurodivergence, bringing those into the picture, I think that the way that you have worked with it has been really beautiful. So I want you to maybe go into a little bit more detail about that piece. I think that's really juicy.
Well, as you were just talking then, there are two main bits. The first one is I have an open head and an open root. And an open spleen and an open G-set, but we won't go there yet, right? But those two pieces have meant that there have been so many times in my life where I felt the pressure of, so open Azure as well, so answering everybody else's questions. Am I even doing it right? How do I make this fit from the top? And now, I have the language for that, so that's super helpful. But then also from the bottom, from this kind of immediate sense of pressure, which I love to talk about now because I had no idea I'd created the value filter, which works with all of those, but is an incredible place to start. Because as I often say, I would wake up behind. Like I woke up before I'd even, registered that I was in bed or where I was. I had this physical sense of pressure in my body of like, oh, I'm behind. And sometimes that was debilitating. And knowing and working with my root center, first of all, understanding the sensation of pressure in my body, that pressure to be free, pressure that is not external, that is completely created by me and is not real, was huge. And then understanding that I had created this tool, actually that is an embodiment tool, that is a framework that I had been using already, but bringing that extra knowledge in has really helped me to start each day from a place of alignment.
Yeah.
And then one of the pieces that we've really worked on together is working with my cycle, working with my emotional wave, really spotting my emotional wave. So subtle wave, I would simultaneously describe myself as incredibly emotional and also like I'm the last one to know about my emotion, or like that I'm in it. And so learning about that has been really, really helpful. And there's learning about it in theory and going, oh, okay, that's a name for that. And then there's learning about it in practice where each month or whatever, as I'm working with that wave, really being able to identify it in my body. And sometimes, and at the beginning, particularly with my wave, I didn't notice it in my body, subtle wave, I noticed it in how other people were behaving around me. And I've been really lucky to be in containers with you where you've been able to reflect that back of like, and I say that because I really think the work I've done on identifying that the sense of pressure I feel in my body is greater at a certain time in my cycle and when my wave is low has helped me go, okay, and what do I need? And how do I, is this a time to regulate? Is it a time to return to kind of action and purpose? Or is it a time to rest and digest and really notice, again, like, am I falling because I'm in an overwhelmed state that my nervous system is activated? So I had all of these frames, I had all of this knowledge, but really embodying my human design has alchemized that and has given me such a greater sense of real world empowerment.
So good. Okay, what has been the most challenging part of that embodiment, do you think, for you?
Stopping. No, actually, that's not fair, right? I had been practicing stopping for a couple of years. I've been working and deconditioning around my productivity and my value linked to
to doing anyway, right? I think quite unconsciously I had been really deconditioning around that money gen piece of I'll do it for you, or I'll do everything, or it's just easier if I do it myself. Like I had been working on that. The hardest bit has been emotional wave and will center, which is a channel for me of, and I only have two, really expressing what I think and feel, and my will, exerting the full extent of my power when it has felt uncomfortable or like it might upset somebody. That's been hard. Uncomfortable, like seriously uncomfortable. It's not hard, you know, I can say it, whatever. Like, it's not, but not comfy. Like, blah.
And I hear you, because obviously we've been in this journey together as well.
Yeah.
And I think that the magic of what you've explained there is that, you know, you've got these two gorgeous channels that work so beautifully together, even in those moments of discomfort where it's like, okay, I'm using this one, but we're also going to lean into this one. And I think that's really the power of having that awareness and that understanding, and still moving with it, still stepping into it, even though it's like, what am I doing? Why is this coming through? So, I mean, when you say it's uncomfortable, I think it's like, you have to recognize that it's really uncomfortable in your body, but knowing how to navigate that with the tools that you've got is really helpful too, right?
Really helpful. More than that, and this is a great time to share this as well, right? So as a collective, we are navigating for 18 months the axis of Aries, Libra nodes, right? North and South nodes. And so as a collective, we're moving towards Libra, this kind of other, moving away from self in our relating. And so we have a collective response to that, and then we also have this personal one. And right now we're right in the center of, so we're in the middle of an 18-month journey. This eclipse period that we're in right now is the halfway point in our own personal up level around self and other. And for me, because my star sign, my sun sign, that's in the area of intimacy and investments. And my own personal journey historically, and this pattern that I've been running for a very long time, is that when emotional intimacy gets too much, I cut and run, because I am so capable. I don't need you. This is too uncomfy, right? And what these tools have given me is the capacity to witness my patterns, see myself, have compassion for, and be with it and alchemize it in the moment. Yeah. And that has led to the kind of intimacy and the kinds of relationships that I have dreamt of my whole life and didn't know was possible.
Oh, all the feels. So good. Okay. What does it mean to you to be a manifesting generator? Like within the realms of everything that's changing in the world and everything that we've been conditioned with, like, what does it really mean for you to be embodied in that?
My whole life, I have been told that I need to focus and that I need to focus on one thing.
Yeah.
And I have this dual edge that I'm still kind of working out, but as a left angle cross of distraction, there's a huge piece about distraction, right? And focus, and what to trust, what to tune out. You know, the 56 and the 60 is a huge part of my manifesting generator journey. Also, there's this piece about being hugely capable, and just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier to do it all myself, you know, all of those things. And also the piece around time and how I relate to time versus other people. So those are the big themes for me. Ever since I could remember, people have said you need to focus on one thing, you need to niche down, you need to, and I have willpower, so I can. But I'm miserable, and then the joy disappears, and I have burnt businesses, relationships, you know, all sorts of things to the ground because people can't keep up, because I'm bored now, because what's even the point? Hello, Gay 28, which is my unconscious earth. And recognizing these pieces in in the context of my manifesting generatorness and the fact that I'm also a manifesting generator, so there is these periods of urge, these periods of leadership, of ahead of my timeness, or of not really being understood, has given context to the way that I create and the way that my aura is designed to work in the world. And knowing that has given me a sense of acceptance. That sometimes I'm going to be faster than everybody else. That sometimes I have no idea what day of the week it is, what month we're in, how long something's taken. Like I just don't have any clue, because I can go into this hyper-focus portal that I can create a deck of cards and a book in 2 weeks. And other people are like, what? The bit that I can't do in 2 weeks is edit it, because that is painstakingly boring and slow. And so really recognizing type and what I am and what I am not, and how we are then designed to work together, is become hugely empowering for me. And so it's like, okay, there's going to be times where I'm going to be running ahead and I can like lay track and like lay things out, which I love to do. And then there's going to be times where I am tired and or don't really want to, like not lit up. And that connection to my root, to my sacral, to really trusting that if I don't want to do it, it's not the time to, has been huge for me, because it means that I am building in a web, step stairway, that feels so good for me. And I no longer have to burn anything down. I can have both sustainability in my business and a place where I make new stuff.
I love all of that. It's like, this is where the magic really comes into reality, because it's like we can know the things, we can embody the things, but then being able to see the direct influence and the impact in your life is where we really get to create that foundation from. For you, what has been the biggest mind-blowing, shifting, transformative effect of all of this embodiment that you've done?
Because I can only ever give you today's answer.
Of course.
I'm launching M2M right now, right? This is my signature program that's been around for 10 years. It's 10-year anniversary of Misfit to Maven. And right now we have opened the door. It's evergreen, and that's really important to me. And we'll do campaigns from time to time, right? And so I am doing a live sprint from the 8th of April. And that feels really exciting, because I want to, not because I have to, not because it's the only way to sell it, you know, any of those things. It's like, oh, 10 years, let's do it. And it feels really good. I have had 4 people sign up in the last 2 days, and we did the first event yesterday, right? So 4 people sign up in the first 2 days, which is really cool for me, because I have hosted a masterclass, and one that was so fun for me and that I wanted to do because it's eclipse season. And in that, you know, we talked about eclipse season, we talked about self-sabotage, we talked about the compass, the value filter, we talked about M2M. Like I did so much in 90 minutes without anyone feeling overwhelmed. My team have got the rest of it. I just have to show up. I actually have a team I can trust. This blows my mind, by the way. Like, and none of this would have happened. And like the last piece on that is, we were having a conversation about it the other day. I was like, I need 4 assistants, not because I need a massive team, which is what I kind of did before. And I have grown teams and then felt like the HR manager, and like, it's been horrible and I hated it. Now these assistants or partners that I'm working with now are not part of a team. We can talk together and I can bring them together, but actually what I've worked out is it takes 4 people to run alongside me to keep all the things that I've got going on working without overwhelming any of them, keeping it light and fun for them, and meaning that I can kind of run this relay with myself that I do, where I'm like, fast, no, lying on the beach for a bit, fast, but people have got, so I'm like, can I go take a break? Here you go, just look after this, thanks. And that's the bit that's blown my mind. It's like, oh, there is a way to do business that works for me. And I don't think, I have spent 10 years following, even though I don't believe in blueprints, even though I don't think there's a one size fits all, like all of that, I have spent 10 years trying to be mentored, trying to get help, whilst also knowing I'm a 5'2", and no one can make me do anything, right? I'm completely self-motivated. I'm not going to do what any of you tell me. And so, yeah, it's kind of blown my mind that it does get to be easy. It does get to be simple. It can be low touch. I can create intimacy without being on all of the time. That's the stuff that's really blown my mind.
Yes, love it. Okay, because you just brought up the 5'2", tell me a little bit more about what it means to you to be a 5'2".
Oh, it used to mean being projected on. It used to mean people loving me, like literally worshipping the ground I walk on, and then overnight suing me or like telling everyone that I'm awful. And I could not work out why this kept happening to me. I was like, am I an awful person? What am I doing that makes people like blindly fall in love with me and like tell me I'm the best person in the world, which is flattering and everything, and I've never fallen for it, but also it's a lot, right? It's a lot when somebody makes you their everything. And then this piece of like all of a sudden you're a narcissist and you're a this and you're a that, and it's, yeah, and that's happened quite a lot in my life. And so really understanding the double projection field and what that means, and doing my work, because again, I think there's a lot of information out there about like, well, it's not your fault, you're a 5'2", people are going to project on you. For me, what that actually meant was getting really clear on my boundaries. And again, I think there's a lot of boundary work out there, and I have pendulum swung from like hard and tough, like really unpenetrable, to like far too floaty porous, and like this is not working for me at all. And really, really doing the work to hone in on, not on an intellectual level, not on a like I'm going to zip my calendar up level, but on an embodied level. For where do I pick people up? Where do I drop them off? What is within my remit and my scope? What is not within my remit and my scope? And how do I communicate that in a way that feels clear and kind to them and to me? And in doing that, my relationship with being a 5'2" has gone from feeling like people project their stuff onto me and make me their mother that they want to be angry at over and over and over again, which is fine, by the way. I have a space for that. And there are places where I really hold that in ceremony and in container, and I'm good with it. And then there's other times where it's like, I am not your mother, right? Like, can I just be fun? Can we just hang out? And whatever it is that I've done around being a 5'2", and you may be able to see some more because, blind spot, I now feel like I'm actually in a place of really embracing the teacher, the messenger, the heretic, and the hermit and the natural. And so, no, I don't prepare for things. No, I don't have slides. No, none of those. Like, I will wear bare feet. If you want me to show up, please don't expect me to tell you, like, to deliver what I said I would. It will be better, or will be what people need in this moment, but I'm not going to remember details. And then the last piece on that is like actually really noticing how much environment affects me. And again, I can bring it into the neurodiverse piece, but I can see it in my human design. I have found a way that I get to 5 online in England, and I get to 2 in Spain, and also at friends' houses and with family. And that balance between like initially really splitting them out and working with my 5 and working with my 2, and now finding this place where they're so beautifully integrated has been incredibly powerful for me. And as a result, whereas before I had no 5'2s in my world, I now have so many, and it's such a like, I see you, and it's so nice.
I love that. As a fellow 5'2", I can obviously relate to some of that too, those experiences. And I think that with how you have embodied it and really stepped into, like those leadership pieces, but also that, hold on, I've got this real clear separation and ownership of what that looks like. It's really potent because it's activated so much for you in terms of the work that you're doing in the world as well, right? Because like we can't go through this without talking about the cards. I think you said at the beginning we're not going to talk about the cards. I'm like, what? Obviously, we're going to talk about the cards. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Ebony has created a beautiful deck of oracle cards that are called the Kismet Codes, and they talk about all of the gifts inside of your human design through the lens of the 64 gates, the gene keys, and all of the magic that they hold as well. Do you want to share a little bit about, you know, your understanding of human design and then bringing that into reality? How do those two pieces come together in your journey with that creation?
I think it's part of the 5, potentially 5 too. 5 because it's different for you. I cannot learn without teaching. There's a certain amount of learning I can do, and it really works, but then I have to teach one, right? Like I have to share it. I'm also incredibly visual for somebody who has no mind's eye. And so there's something like I have an imagination, but I cannot imagine on request. And so when we started learning human design, I would get all of these, and I think 50 gate 56, Sun and 56, I think in story. And for me to really remember the pieces, I need the story of it. And so when I was doing my certification with you, I started making notes of things and visual kind of things, but then it felt like a massive project. And so I probably got 10 or 11 done, and I kind of had this idea of how it would work. And also for me, I am fluent in numerology, and I speak, for me, the way that works is none of these systems are separate. They're all based on code. And so for each one of the human design gates, it talks to not just the I Ching or the gene keys, but also the 64 cordons within our body. And as somebody who is really focused on that embodiment piece and the story of it, like I wanted to bring all of those things together. And as a 2, I can't really tell you how I did it. It just happened, right? It's like it just really focused on, and it was such a response thing, because as I started sharing for myself of like, oh yeah, I just drew this, everyone within our cohort particularly was like, more, we need more, like this is really helpful. And that kind of vibrancy and that response encouraged me. But then also knowing my own limits was like, yeah, not now. And it got parked for about a year. And again, like for many gens listening, right? Started something, could have been like, why did I start another project that I'm not going to finish? But I have really learned, I get a bit done, I lay the track, the framework of something, and I leave it alone. And then at some point, the right timing happens. And that right timing was, I could feel it in December, like it was coming. It was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do a Kickstarter. I'm going to get people interested in it. We're going to bring it together. We're going to bring it to life together. I'm going to have that feeling of like who it's for. And so it formed. So it happened. We raised the money very, very quickly. They went to print. The launch is in May. You can pre-order them still now. There is a plan. I would really like a global publishing and distribution deal, not just for this particular deck, but another one. And I think there are 2 more, but the next one is definitely astrology. So I'm going to break down the planets and the houses and the signs and all of that into cards as well. And the beauty of the deck is you can use it just as an oracle deck, and each one has an affirmation and a visual and links to the programming partner, and it gives you something to do. And again, layers, right? So you can just play with it as an oracle deck, or you can be somebody who wants to go into it a bit further, or they can be used as flashcards and a system to really learning both these or the human design gates. And yeah, for me, it forms part of a much bigger body of work. There's going to be an online portal. There's going to be, people have asked me so many times for more audio stuff, right? They love listening to me. It's where a lot of the alchemy for me happens. So there's going to be an audio version. Yeah, all sorts of things coming. And whereas before I might have got really overwhelmed with like, but how am I going to get this all done? It's not done now. And because I know about it now, I'm really overwhelmed. And my 53, my innocent initiator, as I call it, would have got really, really excited, then terrified that it can't finish and stop. And now, because I've done that work on the 53, which is in the root, I can initiate from that really innocent place of like, oh, it's time, let's do it. I don't need to know what comes next. And so, yeah, that's a bit of the journey of the cards.
I love that. And I just had a flashback that I hadn't remembered or consciously thought about, of when you were staying with me before Christmas. And we were watching that movie, and it said, I can't remember what the movie was, but it said about Kismet, and you were like, oh yeah, and like literally had that response. And I was like, that moment, if I could have captured what then kind of manifested into reality. So yeah, I love seeing
I
them.
had forgotten about that completely. And I love how the bits land when, and like, oh my God, if I could go back to my kind of younger self and be like, and I still need this now, by the way, which is why I'm shaking my head at it. Everything happens in perfect time, right? Like the bits land when they need to land. And if you're like, oh, cool, yeah, that gets far better, right? Not try and push it, because I am one of the things I'm leaving behind me is this real habit of pushing for things to happen rather than letting them have their own energy and momentum.
Yeah, love that. Okay, couple of last questions to round up. If anybody is listening and they're a manifesting generator, what would you say to them?
So I think one of the main preconceptions or misconceptions about Manigens, if you are a Manigen, is that you always have energy and that you're really fast. If you are a manifesting generator, that is not what it feels like at all. It often feels like you have no energy and you're really slow. And the embodiment work is such an important part of being. So one of my biggest things that has happened for me in my life is my insides and my outsides have felt like they don't match. And doing the embodiment work has helped them to match. And what it's almost like, I have this visual of it, is that your energy is so fast and the body is slower, particularly for me with that kind of 5-2, right? And really getting into your body, owning your space, closes that gap so that you don't constantly feel like you've left a part of you or that you and your soul are not on the same page.
Yeah, love that. And for anyone who's new to human design, what would you say to them?
Welcome. This is as exciting as you think it is. And you do not need to know it all at once. And even though it feels really exciting, and even though people are talking about numbers and gates and lines and channels and circuitry and variables and like all of this stuff, please take it step by step. Please start with your type and how your aura is designed to work in the world. And if you're, and then really look at authority, right? Really get into, am I making decisions from my head or from my body? And from there, then you have a solid foundation to start looking at profile and to move it. But there really is an order. And I am somebody who doesn't like hierarchy, and I think you get to do it in whatever way you want. And so I would say it's not about restricting information or holding stuff back for you because we're mean, but because once you've got this solid foundation, then you can really run with it and go and explore to your heart's content. But please get a really good grounding in your type first and your authority and your strategy. Yeah,
so good. Thank you so much, Ebony. Fun as always. Are there any final words that you would like to share before we end?
If you're thinking about doing a certification, do that one.
I didn't even prime that, but thank you.
No. And if you might get to see more of me and more of us working together, because we do love to do the embodiment stuff together sometimes, and it's a really nice back and forth, right? And I think we complement each other and bring out different parts and different bits and see the information or feel the information in different ways. And so it's not just selfless. I get to be involved more when there are more people. So yeah, but it is of all of the human design stuff that I have done in the world, it is the most embodied so far. So thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, lovely. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again soon with another My Human Design Journey. Thank you, Ebony. Bye. Bye.